truly something you won't find anywhere else, because if you know anything about Alexandrite, it is one of the hardest stones to not only get more than one of that looks the same, but it would be near impossible to get this many stones around a watch that, by the way, takes on this incredible oval shape that are equal parts green, but also equal parts in that radiant purple. This is our only Alexandrite Alexandrite watch in our assortment here at QVC. But what you need to know is that when you Google Alexandrite watches, basically nothing comes up. It's almost impossible to do, and I'll tell you why momentarily. But the man that was able to do that, Robert Elizondo, he makes some of the most incredible timepieces with gemstones. He started off as just this corporate executive and then found this incredible life change in designing amazing jewelry, designing amazing timepieces, all around incredible gemstones. And what he's brought us is this stainless steel Alexandrite genuine leather watch that's got 3/4 of a carat of Alexandrite, that's set in gold-plated stainless steel, and yet the face of this watch, which is a story in and of itself, black mother of pearl that is sliced one shell on top of the other to radiate off of the Alexandrite to make it more alluring and mystical than ever. This is a timepiece that will accommodate up to an 8-inch watch size. And that when you think about, okay, 5 easy payments of $69.80, that adds up to $349. And I won't pretend to tell you that that's an investment. But what I can tell you, because I've shopped them myself, is that you can find designer watches that are done in base metal that have no story to them. There are no gems. There's really not even the mother of pearl facing, that are the same price. But yet this one tells an immaculate story. This is a watch that you'll have forever. And of course, you get the brilliance of being one of its kind with an Alexandrite watch. Now, to tell you a little bit about Alexandrite, it was first discovered, I think, around like the 1830s, possibly the start of the 1840s, in the foothills of this mountain region of Russia. And when they found it, they actually named it after Alexander II, because when you see this stone, a lot of people who are GIA certified, they're experts in the industry, will tell you that the Alexandrite stone is emerald by day and ruby by night. So to go back to Alexander II for a moment, obviously a grand leader of Russia, they thought this gemstone matched the colors that the officers were wearing in their military. So you think about the rubies by day, beautiful emeralds by night, and yet you kind of get that cool color scheme. Well, eventually, where we found it in Russia had been mined out. We really couldn't find it anymore. Now all of the best pieces of Alexandrite are actually found in eastern Sri Lanka. So I say that because when you think about, okay, going to Sri Lanka and you see the size of Alexandrite, one of the things about Alexandrite is it is one of the only gemstones known to match that really, actually I think there's 5. There are 5 gemstones total. Alexandrite is one of them that can have a complete color change in different lighting. So while you see it here in our light and it's reading a little more emerald, you could go outside and see almost amethyst that you see right there, but then you could also see the color of ruby. So one of 5 gemstones in the world that has a complete color change, and we're not just talking about 2, we're talking about 3, 4 in some cases, depending on how you choose to view your gemstones. So what we did and what Robert did, which is even more amazing and more even a major labor of love, is all of these individual stones add up to 3/4 of a carat. Why is that so important? Because what the people at his lab did was color match every single stone, so that if it's gonna change from emerald and go to ruby, if it's gonna change from emerald and go to that amethyst looking color, they all have to change together at the same rate. So you can imagine just how many Alexandrite stones they had to get to go on for every single watch. That's why we couldn't do a lot of these. That's why you virtually see an idea like this nowhere else in retail. But then to take it a step further in the world of luxury, I want you to take a look at the face, because I'm gonna have to turn this upside down just so that you can kind of see it. there's a shot where you can see that there's little striations in that mother of pearl. That's not natural to the mother of pearl. Someone takes what looks like the finest surgical tool you have ever seen, and when they get the mollusk, they actually slice the shells of equal parts purple, beautiful shades of onyx, and that serious shade of green to layer one on top of the other just to make the face of this watch. And when you think about most mother of pearl, I mean, especially if you're going in the South Pacific waters, you're talking 4 or 5 years to harvest that mollusk before you ever get a color like this. And yet we still accentuated it with the most gorgeous gold Roman numerals. You've got the first, the second hand, and of course, that beautiful display of the Ecclissi gold facets. And when I truly tell you, you have a one-of-a-kind gemstone ring that is unlike anything else anyone's ever seen, this is the time that if you've been waiting for the timepiece where you feel like you don't ever have to buy another one again, this is the way to do it. And I say that because there are brands in the world that, well, I'll say it. My husband and I went to Paris, and there's a brand that starts with the C. It's right next to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel where Ernest Hemingway used to have a bar and studied and wrote. Hold on, Jay, before we get fancy. And I told my husband, I was like, I want to go to the Ernest Hemingway bar. I want to have a beer in Paris, and we did. But I also wanted to go into this jewelry store because it all starts at 5 figures. Like, it's just pretentiously fabulous. They serve you champagne when you go in, even if you don't buy anything. And I know that I'm not going to be lucky enough to go back to Paris except when my kids are in their teenage years and I have to volunteer to take them as like a school field trip for like cultural purposes. And I'm going to get voted off the island and I'm not going to get to go anywhere fun in Paris. I say that, so I went into this store and they have gemstone watches. They have gemstone watches that start for what most of us choose as our down payment for our home that we've worked for our entire life for. And there are people that go in there and they'll buy those watches and think nothing of it. But I will say, in that very fancy store that starts with a C, one of the things that always makes me so happy when we see an Ecclissi piece from Robert Elizondo is they didn't have Alexandrite. They might have had their beautiful gold watches that were accentuated with maybe rubies, but they didn't have Alexandrite. And they didn't have 3/4 of a carat of more than 50 pieces that you see right here all around a watch, because even they couldn't do it. And really nowhere else in the world has been able to do it. So that's one of those things that, while it was an incredible story for me to go into this candy store of luxury when it comes to jewelry, I know that a piece like this, even they cannot replicate. And if they could, they certainly wouldn't do it for a price like this. So this is the time where you cheers. This is the time where you take a look at that Alexandrite. And do you see how it goes from green all the way to purple? And yet that beautiful black mother of pearl face that's just sliced and sliced and sliced to perfection to layer over. This is that one-of-a-kind piece. Getting extremely limited, only about 100 to go around, and that's going to be it. And I will tell you this, if you've ever been lucky enough to go to a pearl farm, which, trust me, a lot of us have not, but one of the cool things about it is people wait their entire lives for the most perfect pearl. People wait 4 and 5 years. They drop it off into the ocean to harvest, to hope that it's still there when they go back to check on it. And when they open that up and when they slice the most incredible colors that Mother Nature has harvested, that is what you get just on this face of the watch. And yet it's surrounded by one of only 5 gemstones that can have a complete color change depending on what kind of light you're in. So I say that because even people who, I'll say, have monopoly money, they're like, oh, no big deal. That's $10,000 for a watch, may not blink at that. They still can't have something like this at the same place that they bought a watch like that, because this is next to unheard of in the world of gemstones, in the world of fine watch design. And yet you get to see something like this here on QVC for 5 easy payments of less than $70. It's J330713. All right, so coming up next, our most incredible find of the day. Really quick history. So 2 years ago, we gave you a Morganite show and everything sold out. It took us almost 2 years later to bring back an entire morganite assortment, we gave you another show. It's sold out. It's extremely rare. It's an incredible gemstone, and we thought we wouldn't give you another hour. No, no, no. We'd give you one of the most affordable rings in our assortment. We give it to you brand new today, and that's why we made it our QVC2 big deal, and it starts right now. What? All right, how gorgeous is this oval morganite and baguette diamond solitaire ring? It's done in 14 karat gold. It's a carat and a quarter of morganite, and I will tell you right now, for the price, which is an investment,